This is honestly just a curious question to all Bitcoiners that Justin has, and if anybody has an answer, we'd love to hear it.
Yeah, thanks, Josh. So people who are very much a pro Bitcoin say is, where's the effect of this? There is no reason, or there's no economic reason why somebody would want to attack the blockchain. For example, let's just say the total market cap of Bitcoin is worth $1 billion. And let's just say, for pulling numbers on my backside here, just to illustrate my point, for let's say $5 billion, you could buy enough, mining equipment to do a 51% attack on the network. Okay, but you spend $5 billion to get $1 billion. And because you've compromised the network, the $1 billion that you've gotten is now suddenly impaired. And that's assuming there's not some fork of the chain or whatnot where people just back up and say, listen, this is when the corruption started. We're just going to rewind the network back to that and go forward. And the point is, people will say it doesn't make any economic sense to do that. And I agree with that. But my follow-up question is this. I grew up and live in Houston. And in Houston, we have energy. And one of the things you see in the energy industry, particularly with Saudi Aramco, is you see a company that obviously needs to make money. The Saudis need Aramco to make money. No one's saying that's not the case. But at the same time, the Saudis have no problem having Aramco turn on the taps to flood the world with oil to intention, or I should say intentionally, I can't read minds. But my point is to depress the price, to really up the supply. And if you were to try to explain Aramco's actions through a purely economic lens, you will be fought and left with madness. It doesn't make any sense. But if you take a step back and look at it through a geopolitical lens, where if you have the price of oil that can be wielded as a weapon to bludgeon someone else or some other country so that Saudi can get its way, then what appears to be madness actually makes a hell of a lot of sense. And so the question I have to the Bitcoin maxis is there an argument out there that one can make that that secures the blockchain, or how do you secure the blockchain without making an economic argument? Because I certainly do agree, and I can see the value in the economic argument that's made. But I also have seen how very large entities, very large state actors or quasi-state actors don't necessarily care about economics, or economics is a secondary concern to, let's say, a geopolitical concern. That's for the question I would have is what's to stop, I know some army or, some intelligence agency, Russia, China, MI6, US, basically someone with, I don't want to say an unlimited budget, but a virtually unlimited budget from spending the money to destroy or to launch or to try to crack the confidence one might have in the Bitcoin, in the Bitcoin blockchain. And I've never heard a good answer to that question. I asked Mark, Joshua told you this, but I asked Mark Mostis back at Miami earlier this year, and he was very generous with his time. I'm very appreciative of him for taking the time. But it was basically just his answer was, well, that's science fiction, or it's not going to happen. And my response was, well, I certainly don't know what the future holds, but I do know what the past holds, particularly living in Houston. And I have seen time and time again energy companies, particularly Aramco, wanting to send the price of oil down for a geopolitical aim, even though it is going to completely decimate their quarterly or annual or even I can't think of a fancy way to say half a decade, but the point is they don't want to do it, but they certainly will do it and have done it in the past. The question I have is this: whenever people talk about what defends Bitcoin, they talk about the economic incentive. It doesn't make any sense to spend, let's say $5 billion to take over $1 billion worth of value, because you're now still in the hole $4 billion, and the $1 billion you got is going to depreciate in value because you just foobarred the network. That doesn't make any sense if you think about it economically. My point is that there are actors out there where economics isn't their primary concern, and these people have very deep pockets and potentially access to technology that has not yet been disclosed.
Yeah, I think there are surely fundamental flaws of Bitcoin that cannot be answered, but that does not stop me from being a longer term Bitcoin bull. Before all our haters come out and just I would just be curious, is there an answer to this question? If you have an intelligent answer, we'd love you to come on the show and talk to us about it. We'll give you some pushback. You can give us some pushback because we just want to learn more about the space.
Yeah, basically defend the Bitcoin blockchain without making an economic argument. That's what
Yeah.
I'm looking for. No economics in the defense.